Greetings. I'm extremely thrilled to be one of the speakers in Azure Back to School. Um, a big shout out to Dwayne Natwick for accepting my invitation, for being one of the speakers in Azure Back to School. As you can see in my screen, that I am one of the speakers for Azure Back to School. A little bit about myself before I start my session and what I'm going to speak. This is my GitHub profile. This is me, Arindam Mitra. I have overall of 16 years of experience in infrastructure and cloud domain. I have worked across Kuwait. I work across Europe, US, Canada, and I'm extremely fortunate to work with very great technicians, SMEs in different platforms. And right now I'm based in Switzerland, working as as Azure cloud solution architect and a DevOps architect. I started my cloud journey started with AWS. One year, around about 1 year in AWS, and then I moved to cloud to Azure. And since then, I've been working mostly. I started as an SME, as a DevOps engineer, and then slowly I graduated to the architect position. You can definitely find me in LinkedIn. So this is my LinkedIn profile, as you can see on the screen. This is again my Twitter account, where I normally post all my blogs and all my automations. And as I showed you, this is my GitHub profile. All my codes. I normally write in Azure DevOps. I code. I Whenever I find some time, I do infrastructure as coding, and I put everything in GitHub. It's completely open source. Here you can also see that I have provided a link to my blogs, to my LinkedIn, Twitter, Sessionize, GitHub, Facebook. You have all the links to connect with me. Um, Here is also an overall stats which indicates that how many blogs I have published so far, and how many speaker sessions and how many communities I've served so far. So everything is there here in my GitHub profile. Feel free to browse, and if you like it, please subscribe, follow. And then this is my sessionized profile, where I have all my blogs which I normally publish. I put it in the sessionized so that the communities can see, and if they feel that this is useful for all the fellow cloud engineers, DevOps engineers, architects, then they probably invite me from here. So this is in short about me. This is my blog site where I put my blogs. So I normally write in dev.to. I have my account out here, and this is a list of blogs which I've published so far. And today, in this session in Azure Back to School, I'm going to present um, this particular session, this particular topic, which says that can we deploy Azure B2C using Terraform and DevOps. So I tried to automate the Azure B2C deployment with Terraform and DevOps, and then I observed a lot of things, and this was really interesting for me to find out, because earlier uh, when I worked previously, like 6 months or maybe 1 year down the line, when I started working with B2C in one of my projects, I found that Terraform didn't have the provider at that point of time to automate things. And then I saw that, okay, Terraform has now the B2C provider, and then why not to try it out? And when I tried it out, it was a good learning, and I did learn a lot while automating this whole thing. So today I'm going to show you that or rather give you the answer that can we deploy Azure B2C using Terraform and DevOps. So this is a two-part demo. So the first part is like validating that if the B2C, what are the prerequisites of B2C before you deploy B2C? What are the prerequisites of B2C? I mean, like that is the most important part. So that will be the first part, and as you see in the use case, and then we proceed that okay, when we are running the pipeline and we're trying to deploy B2C. Are we successful? And if we are not successful, why we are not successful, and what is the way to deploy B2C using Terraform? So everything, it's written out here in my blog. I am not going to spend time here showing my blog, but rather I will show you that what I am going to present in this demo. So the first thing is validating or are the prerequisites of B2C tenant. So you have to know that what exactly are the prerequisites. Before we jump into this, a small overview about B2C. So Azure B2C, the B2C stands for business to customer. So it's like a business to customer identity service. It's mostly like a identity as a service. With B2C, B2C normally has the same schematic model or the same technology like Azure AD, Azure Active Directory, but the roles are different. B2C is exclusively for applications who wants to leverage single sign-on. So that is why you are using B2C. And the advantage of B2C is that it takes care of scaling, it takes care of monitoring, it takes care of securing the whole platform from attacks like denial of services, password spray, or brute force. So these kind of things, it automatically takes care of that. Plus, B2C can handle any number of users and any billions of requests coming its way. So it's extremely useful service when you are having an application where the identity is not from Azure Active Directory, or maybe but they are using Twitter or maybe a Google account or maybe a Facebook identity, and you want to integrate that somehow with your application and have all the single sign-on in place for the application to leverage, then B2C is your service. So this is about a little bit about B2C. There's a very good documentation. If you read only this part of the documentation, you get a very good overview about how you can use B2C and what all configurations you can do. So the documentation really helps. I have learned a lot from this documentation. So please have a read. It's just like as Microsoft has already mentioned, it's a 6 minutes read, which gives you a good overview about how you can use B2C in your application. Saying this, I now move to the first part, which I mentioned about is the use case one. So the use case one is like how you can validate prerequisites of Azure B2C tenant using DevOps. The best part here is that the first thing about B2C, when I try to deploy Azure B2C, the first thing is that I had to see that whether the resource provider, so you are deploying that service inside a subscription. So every subscription has a resource provider. So you have to ensure that the Microsoft provider for Azure B2C is registered for that subscription. Many a times, when the services are not being used, those services or those providers equivalent to that service is not registered in the subscription, and then when you start deploying it, you realize, the service is not registered, so we have to register that first. So that is number one prerequisite. And the second is similar to storage account, B2C name also has to be globally unique. So that is also another thing which you have to take care. So that is why what I did is that I have a separate pipeline. So as a part of use case one, I have a separate pipeline which ensures that number one, the B2C Microsoft provider is registered in the subscription. If not, pipeline fails, or the name of the B2C provided by the user as a part of the DevOps runtime environment, which we'll see in the subsequent demo, that has to be unique. If the name is not unique, my pipeline will automatically detect that, the name already exists somewhere, and we have to give it some different name, and that is the first use case. That concludes the first use case, because then I get the right name I know that it is already registered and I know that it's good to go. So then I move to the next stage, which is deploying the B2C in my subscription, inside a subscription, inside, of course, inside a resource group. So let's see the demo. I'm more of a person who likes to show a demo rather than going through my own blog. So let's follow that, and then we will correlate what is written in my blog. So the code here is there in my GitHub. If you go here in my repository, I just need to find out, because of late I have created a lot of repositories, but it shouldn't be that hard to find, honestly. Yes, so this is like, I wrote on 7th of May. Yes, so this is my repository. If you click on this, so the blog which is there here, my blogs are also source control, so you can see that everything which is written in dev.to website, it is also available in my GitHub. So you can either read from here, or you can read from my dev.to profile. Doesn't matter, the contents are all the same. Feel free to have a read, provide your feedback, like, subscribe, and everything. So here you see that I have two pipelines. One is version 1.0, and then there is version 1.1. So 1.0 is the prerequisite or the validation which I'm doing. So this is checking whether it is registered as the resource provider of the B2C is registered in the subscription, and second, the name is globally unique. So this is 1.0. And 1.1 is a pipeline where the Terraform, I have the Terraform plan and deploy, where I'm running the pipeline, and this pipeline then we will come to know that whether or not we are able to deploy B2C with DevOps or not. But that's the second part. We concentrate right now on the first part, which is 1.0 version. Okay. So it's a simple thing. Here you see that I have these parameters. These parameters are like the user input. So whenever you are running the pipeline, you get the options where user has to provide their input. So in DevOps is called the runtime parameters. So this is where I'm asking the user to put the B2C name. Okay, and then there are a few variables which I have already marked in here, and then I'm running the whole pipeline in Microsoft Build Agent. So it's a single stage pipeline where I have conditions in place. I have a little JSON code snippet, which is basically taking the input from the user and then feeding it in, converting it, and then checking whether the provider is registered or not. You see from the line 67 that I'm checking the provider, which is Microsoft.Azure Active Directory. So this is the Microsoft provider for Azure B2C, and then I'm actually querying that that whether or not the registration, what is the registration state, and if the registration state here in the upward side, you see that I have two variables. So this indicates already exist, and another is not registered. So this particular syntax is either going to return already exist or not registered. So this gives me an indication that okay, if already exists, it means that okay, that Azure B2C, that global unique name, which I'm trying to find out that whether the name exists or not, or I can use this name. With this variable I can find it out, and not registered is again returned if the provider is not registered in the subscription. So this is like an if-else block which I have written, and then at the end, if everything goes fine, I get the statement that okay, everything is set, it's registered in the subscription, the name is not the name is available, it's not being used by anybody else, and then I get this syntax, or rather I would say that this informative text which I have written, I echo it out. It says that move to next stage, deploy Azure AD B2C. So this gives me a green signal that, okay, now my use case 1 is good enough. I have the name, and now I can easily move to my deploy stage. So this is about the code here. And what I will do is now I will go to my pipeline. So this is my repo. I will go to my pipeline and I will run this for you. I normally create folder in my DevOps so that it gives me a good logical boundary between all the things which I'm doing, because I'm doing multiple things at a time. So it's extremely difficult to see that which pipeline I have run in the last. So that is why I try to put everything in the folder. So for B2C, I have version 1.1.1 and 1.0.1. So 1.0.1 is my prereq, and 1.1.1 is my plan and deploy. So I will run this. I will run my pipeline here. And if you see out here, I will just remove my screen a little bit to my left so that you can see it everything. So you see that I have my subscription here, and this is my service connection which I'm using. This is typically I have just tried to display that these are also very, very important parameters. So I've put it as a radio button that this is always checked. And now this is what it is asking for me. Now for the sake of this whole demo, and what I have done is I know that I have tested it myself. I know that AM test this name, it is not available. So what I will do is I will copy this name and I will paste it here. Now remember that you have to, when you're providing the B2C tenant name, you have to provide the complete FQDO and the fully qualified domain name. So this is the first part, is the B2C name, and then this is the domain part, and this is on Microsoft.com. This is always on Microsoft.com. So if you give this, somehow the pipeline doesn't work. So you have to ensure that this whole name is being provided. So now I provide. I have done series of tests in past before making this video for Azure Back to School, and I know that 05 is not available. So that is why I just want to show you once that how the pipeline breaks when the name is not globally unique. So what is the messages you get, and then I will run another time with the name which doesn't exist, so my pipeline is successful. Okay, let's do it when I try to break my own pipeline. So now I've provided the name, so everything is complete, and then I run it. So when I run it here, so it might take a little bit of time, because as I said that I'm using Microsoft hosted agent, and so it might be taking a little bit of time. In the meanwhile, I can close all these browsers. I don't need this. I'll need the GitHub, maybe Twitter, LinkedIn, and all these things I can close. So now it's in the task where it is checking the AD B2C provider and the name. So let's see. It usually doesn't take that much of time, but maybe. Now it goes. Cool. So the result is as desired. As I said, that I know that this name is not available anymore. And I really wanted to show all my audiences that the pipeline breaks. And when the pipeline breaks, it normally fails with exit code 1. And here you say that you see that I'm getting the message either the name already exists or the provider is not registered. So this means that this is this doing my due diligence and doing my prerequisite and then making sure that okay, the name or the registration is there or not. And this is exactly what happened. Now what I will do is I will rerun the same pipeline, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a name which I know is available. So I just appended from 5 to 6, that's all, because I know I have tested it in past and I know this is available. Hopefully it should work. Let's run it. And we again see the so by the time it's running, let's move to my blog and let's follow that. So here I will again move myself to a little bit towards right, so that you guys can see everything. Okay, cool. So this is what a little bit about what you require. You require an Azure subscription, of course, a DevOps project, organization, a service principal. Because that service principal will be configured as a DevOps service connection to integrate Azure DevOps and Azure, so that that service principal will be responsible for deploying services like B2C or any other services in your Azure resource group. Okay. And of course, since I'm using Terraform, so I have to have the Terraform extension installed in Azure DevOps. Again, this is my code repository, which I have already shown you guys that here resides all my code. Feel free to browse it, fork it, clone it, and play with it, and give me feedback. Then I described about the use case one, validating prerequisites of Azure B2C tenant using DevOps, and then I try to explain that how the pipeline has been developed. So this is how, that's how a small picture of my code placeholder. Here in the picture you see that you have a YAML file, you also have a PowerShell script. Now what I have done here is this is the YAML file, and if I go back, then I have also provided a PowerShell script. So maybe that you're not interested in running the prereq as a pipeline, and you are more of a PowerShell guy and you want to run it in your PowerShell terminal just to check quickly and then proceed to plan and deploy. So this is the PowerShell code snippet, which you can use it according to your own way. It is exactly the same which is written in YAML as well as a part of the code. Moving there, so now move a little bit down, and then this is the same code which is there in the Git. I have also provided in the blog. This is my PowerShell, which I just now showed to you. Now moving this, and then I try to explain that how I have declared the parameters and how the parameters looks like. I took an example of 05. How I declared the variables and all in the entire YAML pipeline, all the PowerShell scripts and everything is using parameters and variables. So you just have to change those values if you want to use in your environment. Nothing else you have to do. You don't even have to take care of the pipeline logic and everything. Everything is taken care. That is why I use parameters and variables wherever it is possible, so that it's easy for anybody to use it. They just change the value and it should ideally work. And then is then that what the stage is doing. It's again a little bit of an explanation and what conditions it is doing. So as I explained you, you see that the first one is checking the provider whether or not it's registered, and second if the name is globally unique. This is what I try to explain. And also, like I mentioned, one point is that the expected value of the provider and the B2C name is registered and null. So only uh, when my pipeline returns registered, which means that the Azure B2C provider is registered in my subscription. That is why it is returning the value registered, and the value null means that the name is available. The B2C name which I have selected is available. So this is why I said that this is the expected value, because if I receive these values, it means that my pipeline will go smooth. Cool. And then I have just put test cases which I'm running. I already run one of the test cases where my pipeline failed. This is exactly the thing you see. And then I'm running the second one, which you will see, where I'm providing a name which is not available, and then my pipeline should be successful. Okay. So now I'm moving back to my pipeline. It should be completed. Yes, it is complete. Now if I go here, select this one, and if I scroll a little bit down, 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 and down, you see that I have now received that, okay, both the conditions are met, and now you are good to go. The name which you have selected is perfect, and this name you can use for your plan and deploy. So now this completes my use case 1 of the demo. Now I move to the use case 2 of the demo. The use case 2 demo, again, the code is here, which is version 1.1. Okay. So here also I have, like, I have mentioned. So a little bit about the code, and then we move to the demo. So again, I have provided the subscription and the service connection as a runtime variable parameter, which means that whenever you're running the pipeline, you can see it as a part of before the execution. And then I have defined some variables which helps me to build the pipeline. Here are the section variables. This whole pipeline is a 2-stage pipeline. You see that I have a stage called plan, and then if I scroll a little bit down, I have a stage called deploy. Okay, so this plan stage, what does it does? So first it does is it installs the Terraform installer, the latest version of the Terraform installer in your build agent. That is the first step. Then the second step is it initializes Terraform. So it takes all these values. You see the values are coming either from the variables or from the runtime parameters. So then it is initializing the Terraform by running the command Terraform init. Okay, and then I'm validating Terraform with this particular code block, this particular task, if I have to be more precise. Then what I'm doing is I'm running the Terraform plan, okay, where in the command option I'm passing my var file name, which is b2c.tfvars. Okay, we'll see it again in the repo. And then I'm outputting the plan, and whatever the plan output is there, I'm storing it as an output with the name of the output is tf plan. Okay. Finally, what I'm doing is I'm copying everything. So I'm copying the TFRs and copying the plan output, everything to a target folder. Okay. Once I copy these files to a target folder, which according to DevOps is an artifact staging directory. So once I put them in the staging directory, then I'm publishing this artifacts. Why I'm publishing it? Because in the next stage, the artifacts which I am publishing, I'm going to download it. So unless and until I'm publishing it, I won't be able to download it. Okay. Once this is done, then I move to the next stage, which is called deploy. And this deploy will only run if the plan stage is successful. Here is the condition. So I have put the conditions out here, and this is what it is providing. Okay, that it is checking. So if my plan is successful, my deploy kicks in, and once my deploy kicks in, it will ask me to approve before it actually starts deploying, and this is happening using environment. Okay, this is happening with environment. So I have pipeline environment in place, and in that pipeline environment, I have approval gate configured. In that approval gate, I have added my name so that every time the deploy stage run, it pops up saying that, oh, I need to proceed, can you please approve? And then I have to approve it, or there's a possibility that I reject it. If I reject it, of course, deployment will not happen. And then, as I said in the first stage, that once the artifacts are published, I am downloading the artifacts. Once I'm downloading it, I'm running the init again, but this time I'm not running plan, but I'm using the plan output which I have got from the plan stage, and I'm applying it. So here I'm using Terraform apply, and I'm using all the B2C TF vars, and everything which it is getting from the downloaded artifacts. Okay, and that is how it is running. The whole section is running. Now let's see in reality that how it looks and whether or not we are able to deploy P2C using Terraform and Azure DevOps. Okay. One quick thing about that, here in the task you see that I have mentioned the full name of the extension of the Microsoft DevOps Terraform extension. Now this I had to do it, maybe you in your environment you don't have to do it because I have multiple Terraform extension. So since you will have multiple Terraform extension, it means that you have to specify that which particular Terraform extension you want to use. Since I wanted to use the Microsoft one, that is why I had to put the full name. In your environment, it might be that you only have one Terraform extension, the official Microsoft one, and then you just have to mention Terraform installer @0 Terraform installer. You don't have to, or like the way I have provided out here. So just be careful. I have also mentioned in the blog, once I run my pipeline, we can have a quick look into my blog as well. So this is about this. Now what I will do is I will go back to my pipeline. I will browse to the folder which has all my pipelines. So here is one. And then what I will do is I will just run my pipeline. Okay. I will again move myself to a little bit left. So this is again the runtime parameter. If you want to see the stages which are going to run, you see that I have two stages, plan and deploy. I go back and then I run the script. Once I run the script, you see that my plan will start. Okay. So as my plan is starting up, I will just explain you in my blog. Let's see in my blog how it looks. Let me put it again to my right. Cool. So so we were here in the use case. So we started the use case 2 in my blog, and you see that we were doing. And just to ensure that we have this the plan part. One thing I missed out mentioning is that previously we were passing the name of the B2C name as a runtime variable, but here what we are doing is we are using the TF vars. So the name b2c.tf vars. So here you have the name out here. So it's extremely important that I'm not using the values as a runtime parameter, but I'm using the value from the TF vars. Here you see S005, but if I go back to my repo and if I go to B2C Terraform, you see that before I started recording this demo, I had already changed it to 006. Okay, because I know that 05 is not available. At the time I wrote the blog, 005 was available, but now 05 is no more available. So I will update this in my Git as well in case if somebody is using the same naming convention. Yes, this is one part. Now I go back to my pipeline and I see, if I see, so this is the one, I'll directly come from here. If I see out here that my plan is successful, so it is all about everything you see. It is showing that it will deploy one resource, B2C and everything. It is going to deploy an admin RG. It will have the SKU name premium P1 and artifacts, publishing and everything. Now, before I approve my deploy, and I'll show you the approval as well, I will go back here and I'll show you that how the artifacts get published. So you see that when the plan is successful, deploy is waiting for approval. And here you see that there is one published. If you click on this one, you see that the custom folder name which I have given, and then you have another folder inside it, and inside that all the things which I have published as an artifact, and this is exactly being used by the deploy stage. This is what I meant by publishing the artifacts. Okay, cool. Now I go back here, I click on review, and once I click on review, you can just put any comment, and then I approve it. So this is the approval stage. Once I approve it, then my deploy stage starts deploying. So we'll just see a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit in my blog, and then we see how it does. So I try to write the pipeline in a way where every people can understand. So you see that everything is properly given. You have Terraform init, Terraform validate plan, copying files to artifact staging directory, then publishing artifact, and then it's a continuation out here where you see that then the artifacts which was published, I downloaded it, and then I ran the Terraform init and apply again. Now you see that the pipeline failed. This is what is the conclusion of the use case 2. In the use case 2, we were actually trying to validate whether we can deploy B2C using Terraform and DevOps. The answer is no, we cannot. Yes, it is possible to deploy B2C only using Terraform by manually running the Terraform init plan and apply. But if you are using Terraform along with DevOps and you want to run it as a pipeline, you will not be able to deploy B2C. And here this error, when I was initially evaluating it 3-4 months back, I checked these errors and everything, and there is a GitHub issue open that why you cannot deploy B2C using DevOps. The answer is very simple. When you deploy Azure B2C, like for example, you go to Azure portal, you select Azure B2C, and then you deploy it. When the Azure B2C gets deployed, by default, the cloud engineer, for example, in this case it's me, my identity with which I'm logging into that Azure, that identity automatically becomes the global administrator of that tenant. So it means that my identity will become the global administrator of Azure B2C tenant. When I'm running the Azure, the deployment here using pipeline, I'm not using my identity, I'm using the service principal. And this is where is the limitation. The service principal cannot be added in the global administrator of the B2C tenant. And that is the reason that you cannot deploy Azure B2C using DevOps. But of course you can deploy it with Terraform only, which we'll do it in a little while. Okay. Cool. So I go here, and now again I'll just move it to a little bit right. Apologies for this, but I'm just having a little bit fun here and there. And now this is what exactly I tried to write it down out here. That the quick answer is that you can only deploy Azure deploy. It's possible to deploy using Terraform only, and by manually executing any plan and deploy. This is exactly which I told you, and it is not possible to to deploy using Azure, using Terraform and Azure DevOps. So this is a little bit about my code placeholder, what all things I wrote. I have also written everything, the main file, the B2C, TFL, you have everything, all the provider mentioned. This is the variables, all what all they define, and this is the actual value which I have passed on. Okay, and this is the pipeline which I ran and which failed because I gave you the reason that it is running with SPI, and SPI cannot be a global administrator in the B2C tenant. Okay, this is the whole test cases and everything, all the code blocks which I wrote, and I tried to explain everybody all the stages and everything. This is a little bit explanation about why I'm using the whole a whole name of the extension, whole complete name of the extension. I have given you an explanation out here, that why I'm doing this. And finally, I ran the test cases which I just ran, and this is how it's the same, like pipeline error occurred. And it's if you see the screenshot and my error, it is exactly the same. You see that it's the failure sending request status code 0, and if you see in my blog, it is also saying the same thing. Okay, cool. And then finally, I gave you the reason that why it is failing, and this is what it basically occurs when you're using service principal. Okay, so you cannot basically become the owner or the global administrator. The service principal cannot be. It's not possible. When you're running the Terraform manually, it is taking the identity while you are running those commands, and you're putting that identity as the owner or the global administrator for the tenant. So this is why it is not possible. But yes, you can run Terraform init and everything, and it will get deployed, which we will do right now. So now I have Visual Studio Code, and you see that I have my code out here. So here you see that I have the name B2C and everything. What I will do is, I already have the command, I already ran it once, so I will just run it again. So I will just run, first I will initialize Terraform init. Now I'm going to just run my Terraform plan once again. So here I will just run the plan. Just let me check if the command is okay. It seems okay. Let's run it. It can be that I'm running too many applications on my laptop, so it's a little bit running. Okay, cool. As soon as I said that, it's slow. It just executed. Cool, nice. So you see that I have one resource to add as plan, and then what I can do is I just remove plan and just place apply. Sorry, and then I just press enter. Perfect. So now I'll just prove it. Plus value yes. Let's see if it gets deployed. Hopefully yes. something is happening. I see that it's creating B2C. Hopefully it shouldn't be taking that much of a time to create it. I exactly don't remember how much time it takes, but yeah, it should be relatively fast. Hopefully. As I said, I don't remember. So till the time it happens, let me. Oh, uh, my system is not agreeing with me. As soon as I'm saying something, it is just doing the opposite. It's glad that it's got completed. Let's see. Let's move to the portal. So now I go to the portal and I said that in the admin RG, it should be there. Hopefully. Yes. And you see that I have B2C tenant out here. And as soon as I have the B2C tenant out here, um, this is like I just wanted to demonstrate that yes, it is possible over Terraform, but not over DevOps. And finally, I just want to um, show you the last part, which is like this is exactly the part which I showed you that once you run it, you have everything out here. Is the last part is of course the GitHub issue. So I have also a link in my blog which has the open GitHub issue, and you can see that it is still open and everything. And if I scroll down to the last, it gives a very good explanation that why it was done. And this is what I tried to explain you. So it has a very good explanation. Have a read, but this is an open GitHub issue which I have already put in my blog. So yeah, that concludes my demo for both use case 1 and use case 2. And now you know that you cannot deploy Azure B2C unfortunately using Terraform and DevOps. But of course, if you're only running manually Terraform commands, then of course you can deploy it. I hope you like my demo. Feel free to go through my blog. Everything is documented out here, as you can see out here. And this is my GitHub. All code is here. This is my entire GitHub profile. Feel free to follow me if you like my code, if you like my presentation. Again, huge thanks and to Dwayne and the team for inviting me to Azure Back to School. Really glad to be part of this community and really thrilled and honored that I got a chance to present my work. Okay, see you guys. Wherever you are, stay safe and keep learning. See you. Bye.